All right, before I take you back to Tennessee, I want to bring in our guest joining us to discuss in Detroit, Michigan, National Trial Attorney Michael Jaffer. Michael, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me on the program. First and foremost, as I said going out, the son of the victim is doing a great job of humanizing her. I think, you know, she's a hard worker, clearly. She was struggling with some health issues. She was an extrovert who was the mom of the party. We all know this person. I think that's a good thing, certainly, for this jury to hear, because we do know I think the defense is going to raise issues about her drinking, et cetera, et cetera. But it's going to be a difficult job, after hearing what we're hearing, for this defense to get up and try to undermine some of the wonderful things we're hearing about this victim.
I agree with you, Michael. This is a textbook execution by the prosecution. The woman having drinking problems, that humanizes her even more, because what they're going to be able to rely on is, well, she took in 2 kids that were not her own to protect them from all these other egregious allegations, the pedophile ring or whatever. So I think that there's nothing they can bring back at this woman. She was a beloved professor. She took in kids that were not her own. I think this is a textbook execution, and I agree with you. This is so far looking really, really bad. The defense is going to have to work really hard to combat what's happening right now, and they're really digging it in, the prosecution. I mean, they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I wonder if it's even worth trying to undermine what's going on right now on the stand. She just seems such a wonderful person. The other thing I want to say is, basically based on the cross-examinations we heard, we know the defense is trying to establish diminished capacity. And I submit to you that there is a relatively compelling case, you can disagree with me if you want, for a diminished capacity. This woman was certainly having delusions. It seemed like she certainly believed the things she was saying. She said it to a lot of different people. But my question is, to what effect is that? Is that going to help them in any way when we talk about this first-degree murder charge?
Here's my opinion on this. My opinion is that they have no choice but to execute and do it. You can look at it from a textbook standpoint, and they might meet the elements. From my experience in my career and looking at other cases, there's exactly a 0% chance that a jury in Tennessee is going to buy it and let her off the hook. Now, we've seen cases, one in Akron, Ohio, we've analyzed them on TV, and all of us looked at it and said, you know what, they've met the threshold. And the jury still comes back and they say, because juries have been incorrectly brainwashed to think that these defenses are just excuses. I don't agree with juries when they take that position, but they've been interviewed after the case. And listen, they showed you every expert, you know, the girl that killed her mom and stabbed her. Why did you rule that this defense does not apply? Well, because I think it's an excuse. So I agree with you, Michael, that this is a good way to go, but also it's the only way, in my opinion, that they can defend, because she called the police, and the woman, when she was dying, called the police and said, this woman stabbed me. So if you're the defense attorney, you have literally no choice, no defense other than a diminished capacity, especially after interviewing the defendant and realizing that she actually did have a diminished capacity. But the chances of success, in my opinion now, I've changed my opinion in the past decade. I now say there's a 0% chance of success.
All right, fair enough. All right, Michael, stand by. I want to take folks back into court. We have more testimony to bring you, of course, in this trial. Let me bring back in my guest, joining us from Detroit, Michigan, National Trial Attorney Michael Jaffer. And Michael, as I said earlier, great witness. Love this guy, really fantastic witness. I want to know what you think about the effect of his testimony, because I'm thinking, if I'm the defense attorney representing her, he's saying some things about her that I'm not necessarily mad at. I mean, he's basically outlining the crazy here. He's saying, I don't want to leave my mom with this person. Then he talks about how she kidnapped her kids in January in the middle of the night. I mean, these are all things that play into the idea that maybe there was some weird thing going on in this woman's mind.
I agree with you, Michael. The part of the testimony where he said she kidnapped her children from a window at 4 in the morning in the snow in January, I thought about that. I mean, if you're going to go, and they obviously are going with a diminished capacity defense, that actually helps you, because I mean, you've got to make soup with the ingredients on the table when you're a defense attorney, right? You can't make up the ingredients. You're given a set of ingredients, and this is what you have to make a defense out of this. It's part of this criminal justice system. We rely on you as a defense attorney to do the best thing you can possible. And so in this case, he's got a witness that's not. It's not the defense witness, but the defense can kind of use that and say, hey, she kidnapped her kids from a window at 4 in the morning in the snow in January. You know, so I mean, don't take our word for it. The state's witness did it. So I agree with you, Michael. That's kind of,
it can be spun. Look, you know, it's not the greatest, right? But it can certainly be spun, just as you said right there. And like you said, you know, you got to make dinner with the groceries you're given. That's just the way it goes. I want to talk about Annette. We have her up a lot during testimony. The facial expression doesn't change, Michael. Certainly the jury is noticing this as well. Even during testimony about her good friend, someone she's known all her life, this young man talking about she's like family to us, nothing changes. What effect might that be having?
Absolutely a massive impact. What I tell my clients, or what I tell other attorneys who have clients, two things, two rules you have to adhere to. If you don't adhere to these two rules, all the work you've done is for naught. No facial tattoos, cover them up. And act when you're in the courtroom. Cry, be empathetic, especially when there are emotional witnesses on the stand, especially when you're defending yourself from murdering a person, stabbing a person, right? Their children are testifying. And you have to be emotional at a very minimum at that point, because the jury is comprised of human beings. It's not comprised of robots that use metrics. They're humans, right? So I agree with you. She's not stoic. She's just kind of like stone-faced, and that's awful. It's low-hanging fruit for you to feel empathetic and act sad. That's just low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I mean, at the very minimum, I mean, some people are not capable of that, and that too says something about who they are and whether they're guilty of the crime. That's just the way it is. All right, Michael Jaffer, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Truly appreciate it, as always. You have a wonderful night. We'll see you again soon.